Hey everyone, this is Papa J with Rose Petal Adventures, and it is Tipsy Tuesday. What is Tipsy Tuesday? It is Tuesday where we share tips, anywhere from cruising to Disney, tickets to resorts to days in the park to maybe even New York City, Bourbon Trail, you name it, we're going to talk about it. Again, before we begin, hit that subscribe button, comment below, let me know what kind of tips you want to hear. You can also email us at rosepetaladventures@gmail.com. Now let's get into the tips. We're going to talk about gratuities for cruising. We're also going to talk about your booking. What happens if you find a cheaper booking on your sailing? And also we're going to talk about onboard credit. First, let's talk about gratuities. One of our recommendations is pay gratuities up front. What a gratuity is basically a set fee per person that cruise lines put that gets divided amongst the crew. Anywhere from your steward to even the people you don't see who do the laundry behind the scenes and whatnot. So that gets divided amongst the crew. You do have the option a lot of times to not to pay that up front and pay it on the cruise. But let's talk about what might happen. Let's say you forget that, hey, I didn't pay my gratuities. You booked, I don't know, year and a half. You were a good person and did a year and a half to pay off, and maybe 2 years, and you forget, hey, I didn't do my gratuities up front. Now, generally, when you check in, they'll ask you if you want to go ahead and do it. A lot of times, again, people will still say, oh, no, I'll do it later. Generally, what happens if you do not pay those up front, towards the end of your sailing, they get automatically charged to your room. And those do have to be paid, and they will be paid with, if you have a cash account or credit card, debit card on file, they will automatically be charged to that. And then you'll look and say, why am I getting charged $100 a person 3 different times for $300? And you're like, oh, it's the gratuities, I forgot. So one of the things we recommend and highly advise is that whether you're booking with yourself or booking with a travel advisor, go ahead and pay those up front, pay it off just like it's part of your cruise total, and you never have to worry about it. The other thing about gratuities, if you buy something like a drink package, it'll be roughly drink package, for instance, like Carnival is like roughly $60 a day. When you go to check out and order that, there will be an 18% gratuity, and that 18% gratuity actually gets divided amongst the bartenders on the ships. But let's say there's 15 bartenders. That gratuity is getting divided 15 different ways. And if you're taking that 18%, that's not a lot of money. So remember, a lot of these guys, they're working hard. They don't get maybe only a few hours off each week. Sometimes, depending on their job, maybe a day. And they're working hard for you. So one of the things we do like to do, especially when we're hanging out with our bartenders, is we bring extra cash and we do tip them on top of the gratuities that we pay up front. Just to kind of make their lives a little happier, and it makes our lives a little happier. And we've created all kind of bonds and different things. Remember that room steward, he's making up your bed, cleaning up your room. Pay him a little love towards the end of your cruise, and maybe an extra few dollars here and there. If he does something for you special, maybe get you a fan or whatnot, maybe pop in a $5 or whatnot. Show them a little love. They're there, they're working hard for you and stuff. All right, now let's talk about your cruise booking. You've booked it. Let's say you booked it for about $3,000. It's a nice little cruise and made $3,000. Let's say and it's 2 years in advance. Let's say 2 months later you check and you kind of do a dummy booking for the same sailing and realize for the same type of room, it's $500 cheaper. Well, what does that do for me? Here I'm at $3,000, and now I can get it for the same cruise for $2,500. Well, Carnival does like certain ships or cruise lines like Carnival. They do have price protection to where if you fill out a form or call in, fill out a form, they can actually go ahead and match that. And generally what that will do is that will decrease your price that you have to pay by $500. If you go from a $3,000 and sometimes you might have to change rooms. So maybe it's, we can move you to from deck 9 to deck 16 and you save $500. And you're like, oh, right, that's cool. And you don't mind doing that, they'll do that for you. But that does take us, but they're not going to, cruise lines like Carnival are not going to actually come out and say, hey, we got your cruise a little bit, we can save you $500. No, they're not going to do that. So you actually do have to take time and effort and check it periodically. The other option you can do is whether you book it. If it's done within 60 days, you can hand it over to a travel agent if you book it yourself, or have a travel agent book it. Using a travel agent doesn't cost you anything. And one of the things that they can actually do, and one thing that my wife does for our clients, is she periodically goes out and sees and finds similar bookings to see if there is a price decrease. There's been several times where she has gotten some of her clients, anywhere between $250 off on their cruise. So that is an option up there. Something to kind of look for, if you're booking a cruise, something to look for, something to kind of check their policies out also. Now, let's say your cruise is paid in full, and you find that $3,000 from your that same scenario, but you're paid in full. Well, that actually will turn into an onboard credit, and that will go into our next segue, is onboard credit. There's different ways you can get onboard credit, just like what we've kind of talked about. Is you're paid in full, you find a cheaper cruise deal, whether it's changing rate codes or whatnot, and you get $200 or $500 off. Well, that $500 would turn it into a cruise credit if you're paid in full. And so that's what an onboard credit is, as you know, or you may not know, is cruise lines are cashless. It means you have to actually use your room key if you want to buy a drink, a candy bar, anything on the ship, an excursion. An onboard credit is basically a credit onto your account that you can actually free money, basically it's your money, you can use on the ship for an excursion, for beverages, you name it, whatever you need to get on the ship. Now, it doesn't necessarily work off, it does not work off the ship. So you can't use it in port. You can't, go to the bar around the corner off the port and use your onboard credit. It does have to be used with the cruise line. But again, that's your money to use, something you can kind of do there. Hey, go play the casino a little bit. See if you can win some extra, maybe turn that 500 into 1,000. You never know. But it's your money to actually go and have fun with. Another way you can get onboard credit, it's happened some, doesn't happen a lot, and certainly not a lot, is when you're booking your cruise fees, got the dogs next door, when you're booking your cruise fee, your cruise, you obviously will see that you're paying port fees and taxes. Well, sometimes the port fees are a little bit cheaper. And if they are cheaper, the cruise line will give them back to you as onboard credit. Sometimes it's only like $20, $30, maybe $10, $15, whatever that is. Sometimes you will get something a little bit cheaper on your port fees, and you'll get that as an onboard credit to be able to use for, maybe a special dining restaurant or something. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We've covered gratuities. We've covered your bookings and what happens, what you can do if you see a cheaper booking for similar. And we've talked about your onboard credit. Again, I'm Papa J with Rose Petal Adventures. If you want to see some different kind of tips, hit me up at rosepetalventures@gmail.com. I'm still working on, haven't had time to get my own email account to kind of keep things separate, the tips videos. But if there's something you want to see, maybe it's New York, maybe it's the Bourbon Trail, maybe it's a city around somewhere, maybe it's a different cruise line, maybe you want to hear more about Royal, Norwegian, hit us up, rosepetalventures@gmail.com. Remember, hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment. Look forward to seeing you guys on the open road.